Hi students, so today the materials that you're going to need are 2 papers, a pencil, and colors. So I'm going to go ahead and let you get those materials. So 2 papers, a pencil, and colors. If you happen to have a ruler, then I would say get a ruler as well. It's not necessary because we're going to make our own, but if you do have a ruler, then maybe get that. It would be a good idea. Okay, so our 2 papers, our pencil, and our colors are what we're going to need today. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be working on today. So today we are creating an optical illusion. We're going to create this hand. We're going to make it look like it's kind of sticking out of the paper. So we do this by using value and shading. Let me just fix my camera here for a minute. Okay. So you can see how I used shading, line, and value to make my hand look like it's sticking out of the paper, or to make it look like it's above the paper. So I'm going to show you how we did this, but first, since we are using value, I want to refresh our memory on what that means. So we learned about value back when we were making our Valentine's Day cards, and we made ourselves a little worksheet. I'm just going to pull that out to refresh our memory. So we have our value scale. So remember that a value scale is when a color is going from the darkest to the lightest, and that's just what value is. The color going from darkest to lightest and everything in between. So if this is the darkest, then we can call this a medium dark, and we can call this more like a medium light, and this would be the lightest. So darkest, medium dark, medium light, and the lightest. And here we have a highlight. So remember, a highlight is where the light hits. So I'm going to be using these words today a lot. I'm going to say highlight and shadow and value. So I just want us to remember what these words mean. So highlight is where the light hits, and a shadow is where the light doesn't hit. And we have our different methods of value down here. So we learned about hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and blending. So what we're going to be using today is blending. So we're using the blending technique to create value in our drawing. So we have darkest, medium dark, medium light, and the lightest. I'm going over this a lot because this is how I'm going to refer to the different shades in our drawing. So we have darkest, medium light, medium dark, medium light, and the lightest. So you can think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, if that helps you. So the first thing that you're going to do is get a sheet of paper. And you're going to want to trace your hand. So that's going to be the first step in our optical illusion drawing. You're going to trace your hand. So I'm going to put my hand down. I want you to include a little bit of your wrist, just to help with that illusion a little bit. So I would recommend that you trace your hand kind of slowly, just so that we get a nice clean outline. So slowly trace your hand. And bring it all the way back down. So now I have this drawing of my hand, right? This outline of my hand. I'm just smoothing out some of the bumps. It's not necessary, but it's just something that I'm doing. So now we have this outline of our hand on our piece of paper. I'm going to give everybody a minute to finish doing that outline. Good. So the next step, if you have a ruler, you're going to want to get your ruler If you don't have a ruler, that's okay. We're going to make our own. So in the materials, I asked you to get 2 sheets of paper. And that's because we're going to turn one of the sheets of paper into a ruler. So it's going to look something like this. It's just going to be this like long piece of paper. I'm going to show you how to make that ruler. So you're going to get your paper and vertically you're going to fold it in half. So you're going to fold your paper in half. And then you're going to fold your paper again. So then you should have something that looks like this, right? Pretty much like a ruler. The only reason that we would want a ruler is to get that straight edge, and that's what we're doing by folding this paper. So we're just creating a straight edge that we can use. So the next thing that you're going to do is we're going to draw some lines going behind our hand. It helps me if I turn my paper like this, and then I get my ruler and just draw some lines going behind your hand. You can make them really close together, really far apart. Doesn't make a difference. That one's kind of up to you. But you see how when I'm drawing these lines, I'm avoiding my hand. So I draw a line, I skip my hand, and then I continue that line on the other side of the hand. So it gets a little tricky when you get up to the fingers, but it's pretty much the same thing. So I'll show you that right now. So I'm just going to draw it in the gap of the finger, in the gap of the finger, and then on the other side. So you see how now it looks like that line is going behind the hand because I did it in the gaps of the fingers. So I'm going to do the same thing as I go up, like that, in the gaps, and then on the other side. You see? So if you don't have an extra piece of paper, if you just have the one sheet of paper, you can also use the edge of your notebook, the edge of a book, really just anything that has a straight edge so that we can get these even lines. Okay. So now you can see that I have these lines going behind my hand. Now the next thing that you're going to do is really what's going to create the optical illusion. So I'm going to let everyone finish up those lines for a minute. If it takes you a while, that's okay. You can just press pause in the video and then continue it when you're ready to move on to the next step. So the next thing that you're going to do is you see how these lines continue, but it's just going behind the hand like I had mentioned before. What you're going to do to create the illusion that the hand is three-dimensional, so you're going to take this line and then you're going to curve it and connect it to the other one. So curve it and connect it. So curve it and then connect it. And you're just going to do that all the way up the hand. So it does get kind of tricky around here. So for the fingers, you're just going to curve it and curve it here, connect it there. It's going to curve it here Oh, I forgot the thumb, so I'm going to curve it there. I feel like that one is a little bit too straight. It could be curved a bit more, so I'm going to fix that one up real quick. Just get my eraser. So the whole point of having the curved lines is we're creating movement. We're creating an illusion through movement. I'll fix it in a bit. So then curve that one, curve this. I think I could use another line right there, just because it seems a little spaced out. So I'm going to do another line here. You don't have to, it's just something that I noticed. So I'm going to go ahead and add another line. I'm going to curve it here. So I'm just adding more lines by the fingers because I really like the way that the line's curved by the fingers. So I'm just adding a few more of those so that we really sell the illusion. I'm just going to curve the line. So now you can see that I have this hand with these lines on it. I'm going to draw an extra curve down here just so that it's not blank. So now I have this line, this hand with these curved lines on it, right? So this is the simple step. We're just setting it up. This is going to be the base. I'm going to show you a couple options of filling this in. So the first way that you can fill this in, let's say you don't have any colors, that's okay. So you can do value with a pencil really easily. So the way that you're going to shade this in is right here on the edges. You're going to make it really dark. So on the edges on the outside, you're going to apply the darkest value. So remember our value scale, the darkest value, and then you're just going to slowly fade it out to the edges. So you're kind of creating like a mini value scale in each one of these lines if you think about it. So it's going to go from darkest and then lighter. And I'm going to do the same thing. Let me just fix my camera. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to go from dark to lighter. So you're going to do that. Even if you want to do it with a color, it would be the same thing. So the way to get this dark value is you push down harder with your pencil, and then you release the pressure the closer you get to the edge. So you press down hard, and then you don't press down as hard to get a lighter color. So if we do this with our color pencils, it'd be the same method. So you're going to push down hard to get the shadow, and then less pressure to get a lighter color. And that's going to create that shadow effect. So press down hard to get the shadow. And then less pressure. So this is how to do it with color, with pencil. And there's another way that you can fill this in. If you have markers, even if you have color pencils, what you're going to do, so it helps me when I turn my paper sideways. So you're going to trace these lines exactly how they are with a color, with a marker. So I'm going to trace these lines. And then I'm going to get another color. Let's make it orange. I'm going to trace the same line. So I'm just going to follow it, but in a different color. Like that. And I'm going to show you on another example page that I made. Once you start doing that over and over again, if you do your entire hand like that, all you're going to see are those curved lines, and it's going to give the suggestion that there's a hand there. So we're creating movement again with lines. And in this case, this is where value comes in. So you see how anywhere it's touching the edge of my hand, it's darker, because there would be a shadow there. Now, how do we shade the inside of the hand? I'm going to go ahead and show you how we did that. So to shade the inside of the hand, if this is the darkest, right, if I'm pressing the hardest to put the shadow there, then this is going to be the medium darkness on the edge. So still a little dark, but I'm not pressing down as hard as I was with the shadow. So I make it dark in the edge, and then the closer I bring it to the center, the lighter I'm making it, because that's where my highlight is. That's where the light is hitting. Because when you look at your hand, it's rounded. And if you look really closely, you have shadows on the edges, and it's lighter right there, because that's usually where the light hits. So I'm going to do a medium darkness here, and then fade it into a lighter blue. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Make it a medium darkness here. Now because this is the thumb, I'm going to make it dark here too, because I'm imagining where the shadows would be. So your thumb curves, right? So there would be a shadow here, and then it would get lighter in the middle of the finger. Do medium darkness here, and then a lighter color in the center of the finger. So don't be afraid to press down. Just make sure that you relieve that pressure when you're getting closer to your highlight. So you see how that creates this curved illusion, because we're putting the shadow here with the highlight there. So you're going to do the same thing on the hand. We're going to make it dark here, and then lighter as you get to the center. So you see how that started creating some dimension in my hand? It starts making it look a little bit more three-dimensional, not flat, because we're adding those shadows and those highlights. So you're going to keep doing this for every single row. And if you need help figuring out where would the shadow be, just remember that the shadow is going to be on the edges and the highlight's going to be in the center. And for the hand, with a pencil, it's going to be the same thing. So if this is your darkest point, right here is going to be the medium darkness, so I'm not going to press down as hard. Then I'm going to make it lighter in the center. So you just don't push down as hard. So medium darkness into a light scale. So if you think about it, when you're doing the outside, you're making a value scale that's going from dark to light. And when you're doing the inside, you're doing a value scale that's starting at medium dark and going to the lightest. So you're just repeating your value scale over and over again in these rows to create some dimension. So you see, just push down a little bit and then release that pressure. And we're already starting to get that shadow effect there, right? So again, you have two options. If you're not totally comfortable with the shading, or maybe you're trying it out, you don't like it too much, then you can definitely do the lines instead. And here's an example of what a finished hand will look like. So there's an example with different tools. We used pencil, we used color pencil. And a completed hand will look like the one that I showed you at the beginning. So a completed hand should have shadow all along the edges of the fingers. And notice how in between the fingers, I make it dark here and then light here. So just keep it dark and then fade it out anywhere you're touching the edge of your hand. So if you have any questions, please send me a personal message and I can help you figure this out. Once you get to the fingertips, all you have to do is round the shadow, okay? You're just gonna round it like that. So it's gonna be the same thing as when you're doing it side to side, except you're just gonna add a curve to it. Notice how my highlight's traveling all the way up my fingers, like that. And that's creating some dimension. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, again, just send me a personal message. And if you need to go back in the video to review anything, feel free to go back. If you wanted to see that example with the lines again, this is what an example with the lines would look like. All right. Well, go ahead and see you next week. Bye.